Alrighty, Noob here, doing a video on Man of Steel versus Superman 2025 because I have seen both. Actually seeing Superman again tomorrow, just to make sure I feel the same way I do a second time. Wanted to confirm my thoughts and feelings, but as you can see, Superman got me hot and heavy, so I got the fan on above me. But before I go into a quick talk about the comparisons, because everyone, the Snyder fans and then the DCU James Gunn fans, and there's a big debate on which one was better and all that kind of stuff. I just want to thank all of our subscribers, all of our listeners, all of our members, except Doc. Doc sucks. You guys are the best. You're awesome. We love you. Hey, girl, keep it coming. We support you. If you want to date with Noob, hey, I'll have my fiance step aside. You've earned it, girl. You've earned it. But keep the likes coming, keep the comments coming, subscribe, and just remember, for $1, you can slowly get nipple pics from me. Unsolicited, mind you. You don't ask for them. I'll just send them randomly to your inbox. But anyway, let's jump back to Man of Steel, Superman 2025. Quick thoughts. The first thing I want to say is that you should not really be comparing these two movies. They are very different in almost every way. So I don't necessarily think it's fair to compare, which is what I'm exactly going to do, which is a contradiction. But we're all about hypocrisy here at ORQ, so let's keep it going. So Man of Steel 2013, Henry Cavill, I think I'm just going to do my hot take. I think Man of Steel, if you were to tell me to pick a movie, Man of Steel, I believe, is to be the better movie. The better film, better movie, better entertainment, better character, better everything. But I don't necessarily dislike James Gunn's version. I'll get to that in a second, but Man of Steel, I think, was back when everyone was doing the grounded stuff. It was fresh off of the Dark Knight trilogy with Christopher Nolan, and Christopher Nolan actually produced Man of Steel and helped Zack Snyder kind of write the film and kind of collaborate with that. So it was the darker, more realistic tone. But I just rewatched Man of Steel yesterday, and it is a great film. It is emotionally resonant. Action sequences are great. It has a different portrayal. It's more muted. The color palette, I would say, is the most jarring thing, visually speaking. It's those blue undertones. Everything's kind of a muted color wash. And then, it's definitely a dramatic, emotional movie versus, Superman 2025. But Henry Cavill, I think, is definitively a fantastic actor for Superman. It's a shame he is not being brought back for more, but I understand what they did with the reboot. But if I were to take those two films head to head, action, the dramatic effect, the style, everything about the story, everything about Man of Steel, I believe to be better than Superman 2025. And Superman 2025, let's jump to that real quick. I don't dislike the film. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought that from a tonal perspective, it was trying to be lighter. It's essentially going back to the 70s era of Christopher Reeve's Superman, and that's the thing. Like, people are comparing Man of Steel versus this Superman. What do you want James Gunn to do? Redo the same dark style of Man of Steel? It's not going to be as good as that. So then if you are not as good as that and the same style, that is a complete waste. So then what are you going to do? You're going to try to do a different setting, different tone, different story, all that kind of stuff. And, this isn't necessarily an origin story. Man of Steel went through the notes of the true origin. This has a little excerpt, spoiler alert, in the beginning that it is, 3 years after Superman came out, 3 months after blah, 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 3 weeks after, so it does a whole thing. So it's in the middle of Superman doing his Superman things. But the tone is drastically different. It's lighthearted. It's fun. It tries a lot of comedy. I don't necessarily know that most of it works. I didn't really laugh all that much. There was like one or two things I thought were funny. I could tell they were trying to be funny. It just didn't land. It was more of a slight smirk of amusement, if that makes sense. Action sequences, I think, were still pretty good. Definitely James Gunn style. If you were to take essentially this movie boils down to Christopher Reeve's Superman style, lighthearted, fun, optimistic, heroic, all that kind of stuff, and then just throw Guardians of the Galaxy James Gunn style action into it. Like, you could tell this is a James Gunn movie, 100%. It's not a bad thing. It's just he has a unique style, just like Zack Snyder does. Very different styles. And I think that the one thing no one should really be arguing is that David Corenswet is fantastic as Superman and Clark Kent. I think there's the biggest distinctive difference, and Clark Kent's not in this film a whole lot, but I think that the way they portray those two, or the way that he portrays those two characters, is fantastic. I think he is a great actor. I think the casting in general was absolutely phenomenal. From the Justice Gang, I think all those were great side characters. They weren't in there too much. They weren't in there too little. Mr. Terrific, fantastic show, scene stealer. I think he's going to get his own spinoff. Isabella Merced, obviously, Hawkgirl. The Scream, though. Scream was annoying. Stop with that. Nathan Fillion was a lot better than I anticipated as Guy Gardner. It got a little dumb with the whole, the story. I don't want to spoil it too much, but the reasoning behind some of the story was kind of stupid. And the CGI got a little much with the battles and all that kind of stuff. I think the biggest negative, I would say, from a story perspective on this Superman was the power scaling. And again, he's doing this distinctively because he doesn't want to be like Zack Snyder, where, Zack Snyder's Superman was viewed as a god. There was a lot of, godly, religious undertones, super powerful. He was, beating everybody. Whereas this one, he said it. He wants him to be beatable, I guess, to make him a more relatable character. That's fine. But if you're going to make him beatable, 3 years in Superman getting his booty tickled by some basic people, that's not a good look. Superman is literally one of the strongest beings in the comic book universes. So I didn't like. If it was in the origin story or closer to his coming out like a year after and he hasn't, fully power scaled, that's fine. But they made him a little too weak for 3 years in being Superman that long. Lois, I thought, was great. Jimmy Olsen, I didn't necessarily get how he was a ladies' man because that actor, great actor, he was the kid from Psych, but not a good-looking kid. Terribly good looking, so that was a little weird with that story, but I liked it, and I'm going to see it again. I want to make sure I felt the same way after watching it again, but I think that people should not be comparing these two films. Very different. If you are to compare, I think the conclusion is, unless you do not like darker, more dramatic films, Man of Steel is the clear winner, and I still think there's a place for both. And I don't mind that. So I think it's a good style. It's different. You don't want him to do the same thing. If that was the case, restore the Snyderverse, which I think they should have done. But again, they didn't. So go in the direction you're going to go and try to be different. That's fine. I don't hate it. Everyone should watch it. I think it's a good film. And if you like Superman and you're a fan of the not dark Superman, you're going to love this film because it is exactly that. If you're a fan of the darker tones, I think you can find some appreciation in it. You're just not going to love it as much as Man of Steel. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Tell me your thoughts. I know it's a hot debate on whether Man of Steel is better, Henry Cavill is better, or is Superman and David Corenswet better with James Gunn? I don't know. I definitely think Man of Steel is better. Let me know your thoughts, and maybe we'll have some arguments in the comments. But either way, until then, we're on to the next showing of Superman.